Wow. Oh, lovely, lovely to see you, Rhiannon, there.
Good to see you.
Yes, it's lovely. Good morning, everyone, and happy Thursday.
Morning.
Yes, good. Yeah, I see it's 9 of us already signed in. We hope others can join us sooner. Yes, I see people are still coming in. Yeah, so thank you for zooming in early enough. We are hoping for a meaningful conversation here, more so because we know that loneliness and isolation is a real issue in our communities. And as community champions, you have continued to manage or to support each other. First of all, supporting yourself or minding your own well-being before you can support others. And I see Rhiannon agreeing with that because I know the amount of work you've continued to do through RBA, and hopefully we can hear that at some point, Rhiannon. So yes, it's an important subject matter. You know, it's a public health concern and something that we really need to, to talk about with confidence, with the view that we can address the issues that come with it. So welcome. This morning, again, it's a conversation, so please feel free to have an input as we go along. But at the moment, I will, for now, I will bring Alex in to take us through the poll and also the few slides that we have. Otherwise, welcome and feel free to, to share your views in this very subject matter, very important. So I'll share the slides for you, Alex.
Thank you.
Hello.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm just going to go through the slides, and then, as Cicely said, we'll start the poll. Okay, so yeah, today we'll be talking about loneliness and isolation. And given the events of this country over the last 2 years or so, I'm sure it's something that we can all understand. Yeah. I'll read out the list. 5 things people say loneliness is: having nobody to talk to. Oh, something's happening with my screen. Okay, it's gone. Feeling disconnected from the world, feeling left out, sadness, feeling understood. I was just reading another list of things, and it said that loneliness can happen when you are lacking in meaningful interactions. So, you could be alone or you could be in a group of people, but if it's not meaningful and rewarding, you can still feel lonely. Okay. Loneliness is a comparable health risk as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Yeah, I'm sure that, mental health and physical health are often related. They often interact with each other. Okay, should we move to the next slide, Cicely?
Yes. Yes, and I think we can come back to that later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shall I go to the polls?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll open up the polls. Okay. It should be up on your screen now, if everyone can see it.
Yep. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Alex, for taking us through that. A very, very useful poll, a very informative too, to see the different responses we have there. Very interesting to see. We have how common do you think, how common is loneliness and isolation in our communities, do you think? Yeah, I noticed 36% says is 80% common, and 64% says is 50% common, and is it nobody saying 0%? Or 11 people say it's 0%.
No, no one said 10%.
No. Oh yes, yeah, it's 0%. Yeah, yeah, which is a good sign. A really good sign. Yes, but we have, that 6% and the 64, percent. That's 4 out of 11 people who answered said it's that 6%. But interesting to see, those interactions there. Anybody with a view or can respond to or can share why they put themselves where they did, or they responded the way they did?
Hi, Ashley. I can see you've got your hand up.
Awesome. So I always go for the highest percentage on this type of stuff because, in my opinion, you may not be suffering from loneliness or isolation right now, but most people will suffer from it from some point in their life. So I always do like the highest percentage because everyone's going to experience it at some point. And especially in the last 2 years, I'm pretty sure we've all experienced it at some point.
That makes sense. Yeah, that is very insightful. I agree personally. Does anyone else have anything to say about why they answered what they answered for question 1? No, should we go to question 2? Oh, sorry.
No, someone else come up on the screen, so I thought they were going to speak, but they didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think it's more common than people care to imagine, because there are a vast amount of, there's different types, of loneliness that not everyone's necessarily aware of. Yeah.
Rhiannon, do you have your hand up? Do you have?
Just to say that different people feel have different permission to express it. So, for example, you categorize people, which I think we have to do to explain and understand our world. Everybody is an individual, but there are trends. So if you're a man, you're less likely to reach out for help and support, because the world socializes you, from when you're born, into not expressing mental health issues, and not reaching out. So I think it's particularly an issue for men. They're less likely than women, far less likely than women statistically, to network and reach out and express how they're feeling. And not everybody's given a vocabulary that you need to express how you're feeling when you're lonely. And within some communities, people feel that saying I'm lonely is disrespecting the community that they're in, because the community sees itself as supporting everybody. So some people don't feel empowered for a whole host of reasons. They don't feel empowered to just say I'm lonely, or another word to describe it. People don't always use the word lonely or socially isolated, but so I think it's about allowing people and being proactive around allowing people to have a conversation about it.
Yes, yeah, I definitely agree. That was a very good point. Yeah, and very interesting what you said about the way that men are socialized. I know that it's something that we're gradually starting to talk more about and acknowledge more. It's very important that we keep doing so. Does anyone else have anything to say about question 1, or should we move on to question 2 and people's thoughts on question 2? Yeah, question 2. Okay. So does loneliness cause isolation, or vice versa? Almost everyone said yes, it does. 91% of people said yes, it does. So there's a pretty big consensus here that the two are related. Do people think that loneliness causes isolation, or do people think that isolation causes loneliness? What are your thoughts? Oh, Rhiannon, do you have
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to say that those two terms, social isolation and loneliness, often used interchangeably, and they're absolutely not the same thing. So the state of loneliness is a feeling. The state of isolation is a fact. It's an objective fact, and it doesn't necessarily mean you're lonely. People choose isolation. They for very positive reasons and very creative reasons. So if somebody's not choosing social isolation and they're socially isolated, they're likely to feel lonely. And we need to do something about that. But I think we just have to be careful not to use those words interchangeably, because being socially isolated can be a very positive experience for some people. And I know that there'll be plenty of parents up and down the country who will be scrambling for some bit of social isolation, having had 2 years with their kids at home, for example. But for many people, it's not a good experience. And that's when we need to provide support.
Hold up, shield another, and stand out for my help. Draw out also the spear and stop the way against them.
Oh, I think the person has muted themselves now, whatever was happening there. But yes, those are some really good points. You're very right. They are two different things, absolutely. And yeah, sometimes isolation is needed. Sometimes, especially people who are a certain way, like, people with Asperger's, people who are experiencing certain things, they might need a bit of isolation to recharge in some ways. But yeah, loneliness is a feeling. Yeah, does anyone else have any thoughts on this? Do you ever feel like you want some isolation, especially given the way that we were forced into it? Now you're sort of like, well, now maybe I do want it a bit. I didn't want it when I was forced to, but now it's a choice. Oh, Ashley?
Yeah, you just used having Asperger's as like, so I'm autistic, so I do that constantly, where I get to a point where I'm just like, I'm kind of sick of people because I just get like, I think about every situation I'm in, interaction. Eventually it just becomes a bit like, you're like, I just need to be alone for a couple of hours, and that comes up so often.
Yes.
Something that's like kind of seen as a bad thing, but it can be so healthy to just take that time and isolate yourself.
Yes, of course, definitely. I'm the same. I have Asperger's, so yeah, I understand that. Yeah, and the example of parents as well who might need a bit of isolation after, it's about how you feel, it's about what you want, what's best for you. And if you're feeling lonely, isolation probably isn't what you want, but maybe it is. Yeah, does anyone else have any thoughts on question 2, or should we move on to question 3? Oh, my voice in power.
Yeah, hello. Yeah. So yeah, I isolation has been a very, very big part of my life. And I'm someone who's always attracting everybody who always wants to talk and drop things on me and stuff like that. So I isolate for escape, I isolate for healing, I isolate for creativity. My life is set up like, I have people who are allowed to turn up on the off chance. Some people are not. Sometimes I take myself and put myself in social situations when I feel I'm ready for that. And so like my house is like my isolation hotel, if you like.
Yes, I understand that.
But I have children as well, so there's no isolating from them. Like, they're all at different ages, so at some point someone's at home, but but they've learned it as well for me, you know, it's okay to take yourself out, that we all have time out in our rooms when we're like that. We respect that we're all like that. And then there are times when we all come together. So yeah,
that's really healthy. I know that there are plenty of people who feel like they have to socialize even when they're at home. They have a certain pressure to interact. I think that is really amazing that you have those that communication, that level of communication with your family to say, sometimes we need this.
yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Does anyone else have any thoughts? Should we head on over to go on to question 3? Can one be a part of a group and lonely? Yeah, I'm seeing some nodding.
Yes.
We are in agreement here.
Sorry, I'm just jumping in again. Yes.
Yeah, come on in.
And that's another major struggle I had. So before I healed from all of my trauma experiences, you know, you can be in a room, and if you do not feel like you relate to anybody, or no one can understand you, or you just don't fit in for whatever reason, that is the most loneliest feeling in the world, and is actually feels more lonely than actually being by yourself.
Yeah.
So, but now I've learned as well that actually not fitting in is not such a bad thing. And I've learned that I'm socially adaptable, so I can adapt to situations. I can choose to put myself. And if I'm somewhere where I'm not fitting in, that's a cue then for me to just stay quiet, observe, leave when I'm ready, and move on.
Yeah, definitely picking up on those cues that you're seeing within yourself and looking after yourself. Yeah, I agree. Does anyone else have any thoughts about being lonely within a group?
Loneliness and isolation doesn't really have any logic to it. You could be like in a room full of people that you love, but you'd still feel completely alone. And I think that's something that isn't really recognized, and it's kind of shamed to be like feeling bad while with people you love.
Yeah.
But if you're in that place, that doesn't go away just because you're around people. You're in that place, and I think that's really important to recognize.
Yeah, definitely. The feelings of guilt that could come up from that. Rhiannon, your hand is up.
So personally, I'm a very social creature. And I had struggled massively working from home. So, you know, just working from home on Zoom. And I've been reading up about cognitive dissonance and all that stuff that you can experience when you're just constantly on Zoom all the time. So understanding it has helped. And I thought it would all change when I started going to the pub, because I love going to my local pub. I've got, you know, a whole bunch of people up there. When it's your local, and if that's the kind of thing that you like doing, you can walk in and you kind of plug into an instant crowd if you want to. And what I experienced was going in there and just feeling really weird, because I was so not used to being in that group. And I felt like it's taken a while to get back into feeling those really subtle things that you don't even notice that you do when you're in a crowd of people socially. So that was a bit of an eye-opener for me. It's taken a while. I'm still not there. I still don't kind of breeze in and feel as comfortable as I did before. So I suspect that people who aren't typically, before the pandemic, naturally sociable will struggle even more perhaps with that as well. So I think that's about also me having my radar out for other people who are experiencing that. Because when I saw a couple of people struggling, and I went, do you find this weird as well? And then we had this conversation about it being weird for both of us, which then helped both of us. So I think there's a lot of very subtle things to do that we can individually do with people that we come across, or friends or family, through to the more organized sessions that Compass put on. And they've been absolutely brilliant. Olga Zilberberg has been commissioned to put on you know, for all of us supporting other people, but you know, there's no dividing line really, is there, between us as so-called, you know, supporters and other people. We're all needing that support, and I can't recommend the Compass sessions highly enough, really. And they've got some coming up, which are fully booked. They were fully booked within about a minute, I think, of being launched, and so they're putting them on again. So I would really encourage people to have a look at that. They're very, very good.
Yeah, I love looking at what's coming up for Compass. They've got some really great things. I'm kind of jealous that I can't go because I have work. Yeah, they're really good. And yeah, it's really good to look out for other people, especially now. I think a lot of people, like you said, are struggling a little bit when you go back into social situations. And again, the guilt can come in again, because you're thinking, I used to be great at this, or I used to be able to do this and that, and now I need to, you know, take my time, look after myself in this process. And it can be hard. And yeah, just keeping an eye out for each other is really important. Does anyone else have any other thoughts for question 3? Anything you'd like to share?
Just wanted to add that the feeling of loneliness is very complex, because it can also come from your past experiences of what, you know, whatever it is, maybe at school, or it could also be a physiological source. It could be something that you experience in your body, hormonal, etc. So it's about understanding where people come from, but having that compassion and you know, not judging them, not judging that someone, or they don't care, or they're quiet, or they're shy. It's having that kind of compassion. So yeah, it's something that as a, you know, everyone, we can maybe go that extra level, extra mile when we are with people, trying to understand them.
Yes, absolutely. Okay,
Yeah.
I think, if anyone else has anything to say, I might end the poll. If we're all good. I'm not sure what will happen when I end the poll. We'll see. Share results. Okay, I can share the results with you all. Okay, I'll do that. Hopefully you can all see them now. Yep. Awesome. Yeah, I think there was a lot of agreement on a lot of these questions, which is nice to see. Yeah, okay.
Fantastic. Well done, Alex. That's really, really good, meaningful conversation that we need to have often. And the fact that we are all agreeing that loneliness and isolation is common, as a matter of fact, is 1 in 3 adults. And if you think about it, we are 21 of us here, and I know there are some people who are sharing the computers or the screens. So it means, if you think about 1 in 3, you can see how many of us here, just where we are, how lonely we are. So it's more common than we think. And I can't wait to hear more for the next hour. But for now, we will be hearing from Annette, Rhiannon, and Ashley. I'm sure you have a lot for us, and Nina, purely because we need to know what is going on out there in the communities to address this monster. Yeah. So let's hear what, Nina, you have for us in the way of updates, and then we'll bring all of you in as we go along. Over to you, Nina.
Oh, thank you, Cecily. Really, it's really about the autism work that I mentioned last week. The last day is tomorrow, to kind of get your views on that. And there will still be more work to be done. So I'm very keen to work with you for the next stage of the project, which is about the strategy. If you have groups of people that could come to talk about the priorities that we will identify for the strategy, the autism strategy, I'm really keen to connect with you individually, to come to your groups and discuss that. So that will be my update, Cecily, for now. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much, Nina, for that. I know, Alex, over to you to bring the next person.
Yes, could we speak to Annette next?
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Cicely, for inviting me today to be part of this very important meeting and subject matter. Most of what I've got written down here to talk about has already been said, you know, because it's not something new to us. We live in a community, we see things happening within our community, and as you know, a leader of a community group, you know, there's always something going on with our members in one way or another. And especially over the past 2 years regarding loneliness and some people feeling isolated, in the fact that we had to isolate in a lot of cases, and still some of us having to do because we are still in a pandemic and we are still become infectious, and so we have to isolate even from people within our own household. Having had that experience a few weeks ago when I had to isolate, I mean, for the past 2 years I've been fine, and you know, and not having to do that, I was able to go out when I was able to go out, when we were allowed to go out. But on the whole, I was able to go out in my day-to-day. But about the 19th of January, I became positive with COVID. And so there's 3 of us live in my household. And it started off with my daughter first, and I was fine, and we were taking food and leaving it at her door, and she was like isolating because she was scared to, you know, that she's caught it, and you know, her parents would probably, you know, be infected. And as it were, I did. After a couple of days, I became infectious, so I had to isolate as well. So if you can imagine, 3 of us I mean, we have 3 bedrooms, so we're lucky that we were each have a room that we could, you know, try and keep best we can out of the way. So my husband had all the downstairs to himself, my daughter and I was upstairs, and it was hilarious in some ways, but just that sense of isolation. I mean, we were only able to talk on the phone because we didn't want to too much via all of us meeting together. It would probably take us longer to recover. You know, we were thinking all of that. Even my daughter thought it was necessary to send us a kettle each for each room so that Dad would keep safe because he has underlying, you know, condition. And so, yeah, so, you know, I think lots of people have gone through that. And yes, there are moments when you feel really, oh my goodness, you know, I can't see anyone. I'm just stuck indoors. I can talk to someone on the phone. Each time I found it strange having to, if I wanted something, I had to phone my husband to leave it outside the door for me, and that sort of thing. So that's, you know, that's my experience of being isolated in the sense. I wasn't lonely because I know people were around, and but I felt that bit of being confined was my isolation. That's how it affected me. Yeah. So really, when Cicely rang me and asked me if I would like to come along and say be part of this program today, I thought, let me just you know, check some things out. And you know, we all feel lonely at some time. I don't think there's any of us, and it's been covered in the polls that Alex had read out earlier, in our lives. And feeling of loneliness are personal. So everyone's experience of loneliness will be different. We're all not going to feel, you know, be lonely in a different way. What would probably make you feeling lonely may not make me feel lonely, you know, because I have another way of dealing with my loneliness. And we touched on the isolation. is a lack of social, it's different again, because it really based on lack of social contacts and having few people to interact with that can affect you as well. So as you said, it's not interchangeable, it's different. I find that it's different. Some of the common description of loneliness is feeling we get when we need for rewarding social contact and relationships not met. So when you're doing things and, you know, nobody's noticing, or you feel, you know, I'm not getting anything from that. Some people feel that way. However, loneliness is not always the same as being alone. And that was said in the polls, you know, as you said, you can feel it could be in a room and you're full of people, as someone expressed, and you're quite lonely, you know. So you have to find, as my voice, the young lady in My Voice in Power said, you know, you got to find a way of taking yourself outside of that, and, you know, try and balance yourself in some way. Some ways you can deal with, you may choose to be alone. Again, I think, as Rian said, you know, people choose to be alone, and that's quite good. I mean, sometimes, you know, as you said, someone said they're more creative at that time, and so that is, you know, to me, that's it is possible to do that. But on the other hand, that could be quite detrimental to others. You know, they might not knowing how to interact with other people. That's another thing. You know, people may find that that loneliness experience, and that can be overwhelming for them. You know, some people can feel, well, you know, have no one to turn to. What do I do? And some people are shy. They don't feel like calling out for help, maybe that they're weak, and may how people may look and perceive them. Another that holds them back from trying to seek help and for themselves. And the whole, people, once people know what's going on, I think they're quite willing to find a way to help. But people sometimes don't, because they don't feel they want to intrude unless you know, because they don't want you to feel maybe different to them. And so maybe sometimes people are waiting for you to sort of come forward, and then they'll be there to, you know, stretch a hand out to you, because they don't want to feel imposing on you. You may have difficult, but it may be your choice for doing that. You might choose to be alone. That doesn't mean you're alone. From what I've experienced. Or you may have lots of contacts of being in a, you may have, you know, contacts of being in a relation or part of a family and still feel lonely. You could be in a big family, as someone said, and you can still feel lonely within that. You know, nobody understands me, you know, you express yourselves. Some people get shut down very quickly and not given a chance to express how they're really feeling. And it's just giving some time, giving people that space to be, for them to feel comfortable enough to say, well, you know, I have got this problem. Are you able to help? You know, so listening and just observing, that's what I tend to do with people. I have no, it's just my day-to-day living. I try to observe, and I don't try not to judge. I just wait to hear, you know, if someone have something to express, you know, and if they ask for my opinion, then I'll give it. I try not to give my opinions too often. Yeah. You know, another thing, another way you feel you're not understood or cared for. Another thing, you feel you're not understood or cared for the people around you, or the people around you feel as if they care about you, or maybe the friends. You know, it's great when everything's are going fine, but then when things are not going So fine, you don't feel that people are taking your feelings on board and how you feel. Maybe something is said in a room that some people might not been able to just shrug it off, but you may be that person that something happened to you. And as someone said earlier, I think it was Nina, you know, it may be something that's deep-rooted in you, something that's probably happened to you, an experience you have, and that's a trigger when somebody express something, but those people may not know that. So it's a balance that they're talking about something. It's not pertaining to you particularly, but it's something that's deeply affects you, and therefore you may have a reaction towards it. So maybe sometimes people, there could be an outburst because of how you were feeling, other than to what was actually said. It may not meant for you personally, but you know, it happens, and we are people and we feel things, and so you know, we pick up on it, that something isn't quite right there. You may have anxiety, you know, about certain things because there's triggers for certain things for other people, and it can upset the whole day, you know, and probably weeks. People feel, oh, something was said and you know, I'm not happy with it, how it's making me feel, you know, and so forth. So those are things that we always say, we are not in control of what other people do, but we are in how we manage it for ourselves so that it doesn't impact on us, you know, as much, and we are able to deal with it. It could be something like for some people, certain events such as experiencing a bereavement, you know, it brings back for me. My first bereavement that I experienced was my grandmother when I was 13 years old. And that impacted me. I remembered that until today, and that's many, many years, you know, a few decades ago that was. And so losing my parents, it was another, you know, it took a while for me to get myself together, you know, and then subsequently, whenever one close to me go, it takes me time to get myself together again. It may be retiring from work, you know, you're losing that social contact that you have at work. Again, it can allow you to go into feeling lonely. You know, I haven't got that group of people that I interact with every day anymore. My life has changed. And if you haven't prepared for when you're retiring, you know, suddenly you're out of the workforce, or you've been made redundant or whatever way, and it's going to impact on you in some way. It could make you feel lonely because you don't have that interaction anymore, and it could make you feel, you know, isolated because you're not meeting those group of people that you normally go out. As Rihanna said, she goes out to the pub, and then, you know, when she goes there, after being away for such a long time, it probably didn't feel the same as when she regularly went on a Monday night. I don't know whether it's a Monday or a Friday you go, Rianne, but whichever day of the week you do go. Yeah, so
Definitely not on Monday.
I thought after a hard day's work on a Monday, you might feel you need that interaction. Yeah, it could be you may feel excluded from social activities as well due to financial reasons. You don't have the money to go out and be with friends. So then again, you could feel, you know, I'm isolated, you know, I can't go out because I can't afford to spend this money to go out and be with my friends. It could make you feel, you know, out of sorts with what's going on. It could also discrimination. You could feel discriminated against. You know, you're going to work, you know, you feel picked on because everything you do isn't right, whether it is or not. That's how you're probably feeling. And sometimes it's a fact, sometimes it isn't. Sometimes, you know, people will find anything to pick on because they're feeling in a way that day. And to get away from themselves. Sometimes it's easier to pick on someone else to make them feel bad, or some people get something out of that. You know, it affects other people. So that's difficult as well. And someone say, you know, it could be sexual or physical abuse. People are feeling, you know, they're kept away from their friends, maybe a abusive partner, they're not able to talk to who they want to talk to. Sometimes you get isolated from your family because, you know, your partner or so forth, you know, don't want you to have that connection with your family anymore, so that they're in control of you. So again, you know, people can feel terrible in those situations. Some things that you may be able to do for yourself, you can, you know, find a way to try and help yourself. I believe I've seen it. You know, I've seen people been in situations where they have to try and find something for themselves to help them. Once they get to that point where they either seek, you know, health, it might impact on their mental health also. So they may have to seek, you know, other health and advice. And as, you know, leaders in the community within our group, if we know someone is unwell and they need some help, we try and help them, give them advice. They want to talk to, you know, to go and seek some help for themselves when they're able to do that. But in the meantime, we just be there as a listening ear for them if they wish to talk to us. And of course, it's confidential. You know, we don't sort of disclose, you know, what we are discussing with our members and friends. It's personal. And that's what we do. You could join a class or a group based on your hobbies, something to do, something for you to fulfill. Maybe you wanted to do flower arranging, and this is your opportunity to do something that's going to bring you some happiness and so forth. You could volunteer and do things to help you also in the community, help others, because sometimes you've got the experience, you've been there, you know, and so you can share that with them and let them see they're not alien. We're all people, we all go through different things, and at some time we do need help, and not to feel afraid to ask for the help that you need, you know, if you're in that frame of mind. Meeting and helping others, as this could help to improve your mental health, because while you're helping others, you know, you bring things out in yourself, you recognize things that happening to them happen to you. So you're not alone. You know, these things happen, and it could happen to anyone at any time. Things that you could do to help your own mental health is go out walking in, you know, in green spaces, you know, try and do some physical exercise if you're able to do it. You know, join a Zoom group like we are here today. We can discuss different things that's happening within our community, and people who, you know, we are all people and we will always be going through different things, but sometimes they're all related, and we can relate to others with it. As you know, over the last 2 years, it has been very difficult for all of us, I believe, and the impact in our lives, you know, in many ways, and it has caused many of us to feel loneliness and isolation. One, we can't meet with our friends. Ones, we are here suffering with maybe domestic abuse. It maybe could be any other thing, you know, a sick child, you know, parents ill, you know, going into hospital, you're not able to visit, you're not, you know, in all of the things that come with COVID-19. And finally, we should, where possible, try to reach out to each other by making a phone call, especially to those who, you know, live alone and not likely to be, your call may be the only call they've had for that week or that day. And also just to try and take care of each other the best that we can. And, you know, be there when someone you know or someone you can help, just listen. And really, that's all I can say. Just keep in contact and reach out to each other. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I can't hear.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to unmute, but my mouse was going all over the place for some reason. But thank you so much for that. That was really amazing. You made so many good points. There were so many times where I wanted to be like, yeah, I agree, but I didn't want to interrupt. Yes, that was really good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, does anyone have anything to say about that, or should we go to our next person? We all good? Okay, awesome. Rhiannon, would you be able to speak next?
Oh,
Yeah, just to say, I have to go to another meeting in 10 minutes, so I'll
Okay.
kind of whiz through. And the sun's come out, and it looks a bit like I'm having one of those Hollywood religious conversion moments here. But it is just the sun. There's nothing speaking or anything going on here. So I just thought I'd start off by saying that, you know, Annette's insights are absolutely spot on and really beautifully describe how the experience of loneliness is as unique as our fingerprints, and we need to remember that. It's not a sort of one size fits all. We're all extremely different, so I totally underline that. I thought I would just kick off by explaining what Ready Friends is. I've got a banner behind me if you can see it. So the Ready Friends project is all about working with anyone, any group of people, could be a very large organisation, in voluntary organisations, it could be a large charity, through to a bunch of neighbours or friends wanting to do something, set something up to reduce loneliness and unwanted social isolation. So that involves me doing a whole host of different things. I put some links in the chat, which hopefully Cecily would kindly circulate after this meeting, because I wanted to draw your attention to a couple of things. I wanted to first say that Reading is in desperate need of volunteer befrienders. And there are lots of befriending organisations, mainly providing support for people over 55, but there are some for all adults. So that's one of the things that I'm going to be working on, is trying to get the message across. And often people who've experienced loneliness, their way out of loneliness is volunteering. So and they, you know, could be trained to be a befriending volunteer. The big missing link really for Reading, I think, is there's lots and lots of activities going to be going on, and lots of activities already restarted, which is great. But people often lack the confidence to actually step over the threshold of their door, and they need somebody to go with them. Maybe just once or twice, and then they don't need them anymore. A sort of buddy that gets them to there and maybe home again. So that's a big missing element. There's a little bit of support with Age UK Berkshire's Out and About service, but that's for older people. And the criteria are that they don't need mobility support, and they can't take people that have got significant mental illness, ill health, and dementia. So there's quite a gap there, and that's another thing that I'm looking at the moment. Befriending isn't the only solution, as Annette has said and other people have said today. We all need different things to lift us out of our loneliness. Befriending is great, but it is one thing among hundreds of activities in Reading that people can to get to. And one of the shout outs I wanted to do was for the Reading Services Guide, which is Nina manages at RBC. Which is an absolutely brilliant way of finding out what's happening near me and what things I'd be interested in going to. I put a link in for the Befriending Forum, which is one of the things that I run, quarterly Befriending Forum, for anybody wanting to take action on loneliness and social isolation. It's happening next Thursday between 1 and 2:30 on Zoom again, I'm afraid. We will eventually go back to doing something in real life, but the interesting thing is we've had more people participate because it was on Zoom. So that's something we need to bear in mind for the future, with a kind of a blended offer in the future. And we've talked and heard today about how our experiences of loneliness are unique to us as individuals, but there will be shared barriers experienced by specific communities. So that's one of the reasons why in February it's LGBT plus History Month. And so next week's obviously the end of that month, and we're going to be focusing on the needs of LGBT plus people in and around Reading, what their experiences have been, what are the barriers that are connected to them being LGBT, and what we as a voluntary sector, as a community, can do about supporting people out of loneliness. So you're very, very welcome to come along to that. And as I said, that the links in the chat there. Also, just point out the Ready Friends Toolkit, which the banner is about behind me. And there's an online one, but there's a paper version, which I looked at. I was very worried because I launched it in 2019 and I thought, oh, this is going to be so out of date and it won't be relevant anymore. And it's been amazingly pandemic proof. So it's still pretty relevant and probably will be even more so as people emerge from their homes and whatever, and want to get out and do something. We're also running 3 how to run a street party workshops next week and the week after and the week after that. So that's again about encouraging people to get together to do something that's not really difficult. It doesn't need to cost anything, but could actually tempt out some of your neighbours who wouldn't be going to anything else. So that's another thing. Just really to say, check out the Ready Friends page on the RVA website, and I'll put that in the chat as well. And I would be delighted to work with anybody who wants to do something about loneliness in their street, their neighbourhood, or with their community of interest that might be spread across town. I think that's probably enough from me now, but everybody, you know, we can all do something for ourselves, but for other people as well. And it doesn't have to be huge.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. That was really good. And again, I agreed with so much of what you said. I know you've got to shoot off soon, but I just wanted to say thank you very much. And the point you made about the blended approach, we've been speaking about that quite a lot here, about how like, although the pandemic has of course been awful and no one's going to say anything else, but at least it's given us an insight into how we can expand how we reach people and the options. I don't know personally about how much online stuff there was before the pandemic, but I think that us being forced into this has shown us that the online approach is a very good option and will reach more people in some ways. So yeah, I just thought that was really interesting that actually more people join online than in person. And now those people have that option. It's really nice. And yeah, we'll definitely send all those links. Yeah, I do the social media for our accounts. I'm happy to share whatever, anywhere that, yeah, a great message. Okay. Yeah, Cicely mentioned that, Ashley, you might have some things to contribute now.
Yeah, so I can tell you guys about our social groups we do at Compass. So we run these just year round. So we currently have 3 different types. So we have 2 different types of what we call our coffee and chat. And then we also have like a walk talk, what we do on a Friday. So our coffee and chat is every Tuesday morning from 10:30 to 11:30 at the Biscuit Factory. And this is just anyone can turn up and just see people. We have quite a few participants that this is the only time they leave their house during the week. So see you later, Rhiannon. So obviously it's lovely for them. And it's usually a group of about 12 to 15 people each week. And it's so lovely because they generally care about each other because they see each other week after week. And it's such a lovely community. We have a coffee and chat in university. So we joined up with RUSU, which is Student Union, because they did a poll last year and the well-being of the students was at like an all-time low. It was like 23% of students feel like the university cares about them. So we joined up with RUSU and we're doing one in the university as well. And then on a Friday morning, 10:30, 11:30 at Palmer Park, we do a walk, talk, walk. We started this in the pandemic to get people to actually go outside, because for most of the pandemic, the only thing you could do was sport. So we started something that is counted as sport, so then we can actually get people to come out and see each other. These types of groups, not even just Compass, just in general, I recommend. They're so great for loneliness because it gives you an opportunity to see people, but it's not the pressure of having seen your friends and family if you're not feeling like that. It doesn't, there's no like expectation of you. You can just turn up, and even if you sit there and don't speak for an hour, at least you're seeing people.
Sorry, I almost closed Zoom then for a second. Yes, that yeah, that is really great. And again, like after I saw that Compass did these things, I was like, oh, I really want to go. I used to be a student at Reading, and yeah, I know that I would have benefited a lot from a service like that. Yeah, that's really great. And also, I thought now would be a good time to mention that we also have a coffee morning on Tuesdays. Ours is from, I think, 11:30 to 1 on Tuesdays, and everyone's welcome. If you feel like having a chat. I think we're also planning on having some like board games and, you know, bits and bobs for people to do. Yeah. Okay. Does anyone else have anything to share? I'm not sure if we have anyone else queued up. Let me just check.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Alex, for that. I think a lot of information being shared here, and I believe each one of us have something to say into how they are looking after themselves and then looking after others. So we'll come back to that. But for now, let's watch a short video clip to reinforce on what has been shared so far, but also to inform us on some of the things that we need to, we can take up to help us deal with the loneliness and isolation that we all experience at one time or another. So allow me 1 minute to do this. Okay, so I may have to stop again and come back again. It's 5 minutes long, but worth it. Yeah, there we go.
Often people think that social isolation and loneliness go hand in hand, and of course sometimes they do. But it's important to know the difference between the two. Isolation refers to the physical separation that a person has to social contact. Loneliness is the emotional feeling of lacking these social contacts. A good way to look at it is that a person can be surrounded by friends and family, but can still feel lonely. Similarly, a person can have very little social contact with others, but can feel perfectly happy. Anyone can feel lonely, and it's much more common than we think. Although as we get older, our feelings of loneliness can increase. This can be for a number of reasons. Certain life events, such as the loss of a loved one, poor physical health or mental health, loss of mobility, lack of confidence, or environmental restrictions, such as lack of transport. Loneliness can affect our health both physically and mentally. It can cause us to become more anxious and stressed and reduce our self-esteem, which can in some cases lead to depression. It can also stop us from getting a good night's sleep, which can reduce our motivation. This can affect how we look after our bodies. It may make our diet worse or stop us from wanting to exercise. All of this can increase the risk of developing health conditions in the future. A lot of the time, people don't like to admit when they're feeling a bit lonely, but it's important to remember that loneliness can affect anyone of any age. Here's a few simple things that you can do to stay in touch with the people around you. Keep in contact with your friends and family, even if it's just a quick phone call or email once a week. They'll probably appreciate a chat as much as you will. Try to get out and about as much as you can. Make use of public transport, which is free or cheap for older people. This will help you to keep active and improve your health. If you're worried about your mobility, then talk to your GP. They'll be able to advise you on things you can do to keep you on your feet. Check for community groups or volunteering opportunities in your area. Find something that genuinely interests you, as this is a great way of meeting like-minded people and forming friendships with people local to you. If community groups don't appeal to you, then you could always try the local befriending scheme. This is a supported friendship between two people and gives you comfort in knowing that someone is there if you need them. Let me introduce you to Jeanette and Bridgette. They were paired up through the local befriending scheme.
Hello, I'm Jeanette.
And I'm Bridgette.
We were first introduced when I got in contact with the befriending service. I live on my own and was looking for someone who I could build a friendship with. Recently, I've had problems with my mobility and I didn't feel comfortable with the idea of going out on my own. I think I was a bit nervous. Then a few months ago, I called the service to ask if I could be paired with somebody. That's when I met Bridgette.
I've been volunteering for the befriending service for a couple of years now. I do shift work and a lot of my friends are at work when I'm not. I often think about my own mum. I'd hope that if she needed somebody to support her, that she'd be able to get someone. With Jeanette, it just clicked straight away. It feels as if I've known her for years.
It certainly does. I was looking for someone just to come and talk to me or go out with walks with me. But my friendship with Bridgette has turned into so much more than that. She comes and visits me a couple of times a week, even if it's only for 5 minutes. And if she can't visit, then she'll call me to check I'm okay. We also like to go to coffee mornings with other volunteers and people who use the service. It's a great way to get out and about, and it's lovely to be able to meet other people and have a chat.
That's right, it's company for us both. I'll pop over in the evening and say I'm only staying an hour, and then before I know it, it's 10 o'clock. We're definitely never stuck for something to talk about, are we?
Nope, never. We can talk to each other about things that we wouldn't talk about with other people.
We're a shoulder to cry on for each other, aren't we? I think in Jeanette's case, it was an issue with her confidence. Although she's become less mobile, she's still very independent. And when you're independent, it can be difficult to ask for help, even if you're lonely or isolated. Luckily for me, though, Jeanette contacted the service.
And for me. Although I've had problems with my mobility, I'm a firm believer in exercise. It keeps you strong and balanced and can help keep you independent. I've been working on my mobility, and since Bridgette has been visiting me, I'm becoming more confident. I'm looking forward to getting out and about more.
It doesn't just benefit Jeanette either. Since becoming a befriender, I've become more outgoing, and it's helped me to do more activities during the week when I'm free. It's giving a little back, and I really enjoy it. Whether it's a relative, someone you already know, or a neighbour 3 doors down that you've only said hello to in passing. If you know someone who might benefit from your company, then I really encourage you to get in touch with them. It can be really rewarding for you both.
Thank you for sharing the video, Cicely. Does anyone have any thoughts on the video? I thought that was really good. I was already pretty convinced that this was a good service, but that video made me kind of want to do it myself. Does anyone have any thoughts? If not, could we go over to Charles to update us on the programs?
Hello guys, I'm Charles. I'm a personal development coach, and I also co-host Lifetime Success Seminars, which is a series of programs to do with personal development, really. So anything to do with mental well-being, physical well-being, business, finance, lifestyle, spiritual matters, you name it, anything to do with personal development. We do. So we raise conversations in those areas and really try and galvanize the community to get engaged in conversations to do with their well-being in all those different facets of their lives. Basically, we do our meetings every other Saturday. Actually, we've got one coming up this Saturday between 3:30 and 5. And in here, I can see quite a few faces that have been in our meetings. And yeah, so it's a nice little space where we can share our experiences and really exchange ideas on how we can really improve our lives in all those different areas. It's so wonderful to be here with this particular program, actually, because a few years back, if someone would have mentioned isolation and loneliness, I would have, my mind would have wandered right to the extreme. Someone sort of shrinking in a corner, in a locked door, completely isolated and cut out from the world. But I think the pandemic has taught us so much that isolation and loneliness in particular is something that can really hit us all. And I like that video when they said that you could actually be out and about and still be lonely. And that is actually quite scary because sometimes you pass people along the street and at work or anywhere for that matter, and you think everybody's all right since they're out and about, but they can still really be lonely. And I've experienced that myself to some degree. And actually, one of my New Year's resolutions for this year is to make sure that I spend more time with the people that actually matter to me. Because what I've realized in life is that you may have contact with a lot of people, but they may not necessarily be the people that you trust enough to be vulnerable, if I use that term. And therefore you do have a lot of contact, but you're still so much lonely in the sense that you can't open up still. And the people that you could do, for some reason or another, you don't have that much contact with, either because of distance or, well, it could just be that you're working on completely different schedules, whether work-wise or family-wise or whatever that is. So my New Year's resolution was to deliberately making time for those people that would really help me with that, would allow me to be vulnerable, would allow me to sort of express myself. And so I do that on a weekly basis. So basically I pick up the phone and actually start making these appointments, like, could we meet up this week? And they go like, what, Charles, what are you on about? What's happening to you? What's wrong? What's going on? And I'm like, no, it's just my New Year's resolution. I just want to make time with, deliberately making that time. So yeah, so I think this is really important. I think it's just as important for the people who want to make a difference in their lives as it is to ourselves as well, as we've seen in that video. Both the elderly lady and the volunteer are benefiting from actually volunteering and really trying to make an impact to others. So that was really powerful. Thank you so much, Cecily, for the invite. So yeah, so that's me in a nutshell, and that's what we do. If you want to know more or you'd like to join us in our meetings, Cecily has all our contacts, so you can get that from her. And yeah, great to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that. And again, we're happy to share anyone's stuff on our social medias. Like if you've got like a poster or anything, we're happy to share that around, spread the awareness. Next, do we talk to Chuck about the Born to Be Alive programs?
Anyone hear me?
Yep.
Yep, brilliant. So my name's Chukwemeka, and I'm doing a podcast called Born to Be Alive, and it's all around the mental health journey, and based on myself and other people that I've come across over time. And usually on a Thursday afternoons from 2 till 3. And this afternoon's podcast is all about connecting with professionals. So be it crisis services, the hospitals, psychologists, therapists, and the different complexities that might come across when you're dealing with your own mental health journey. So I would like to invite people to the session this afternoon, if you can make it. And I'll put some details in the chat as well, so that people can get the information. And yeah, but it's really good. It's really good discussion that we have. And yeah, that's me.
Can I just ask about that? So when you say about talking to professionals, do you mean like how to get in contact with them, or like how to ask for help kind of thing?
Yes, in that way as well. Like it's a very sort of holistic conversation about that process. So and it might be that you're feeling that you can't, and how to approach that conversation so that you can get the best help that you can.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I know that one of my like top pieces of advice I'm always giving people is go to the doctor or go get like mental health support or whatever, and people get very anxious about how to go about that process. They don't know what they should be asking for, they don't know what to say, but there are services out there for them. They just need to access them. Well, in an ideal world, there would be plenty of resources, which isn't always the case, but there are things out there for people. Yeah, that's really cool. That's really good. Yeah, I hope that lots of people are listening. Yeah, that's really cool. Is it a podcast on like Spotify or anything, or do you have to like go to a website to access it?
So it'll be done through Zoom.
Oh, right.
Done through Zoom, and details of that will be through Cecily as well. So, but yeah,
awesome.
Eventually.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
You got to think big.
Awesome. Okay, does anyone else have anything they would like to share? You know, free reign, whatever you guys want to talk about. Does anyone have any thoughts on the video or anything else anyone has said?
I just want to say that this conversation has just reminded me how blessed the last few years have been for me. Like, everyone has had like a really difficult time being in lockdown, but for me, like, it didn't affect me in that way. It's actually brought me peace. And having that disconnect from people and not feeling like I have to be there for people, and you know, being able to take care of myself if something has been too much for me. You know, I've lost a couple of people along the way, like I had to like disconnect from them and whatever, but actually it's what's been needed and something I may not have done without this. And so during that time, I've really been able to step into my healing journey and start to look at the positives that have come from it and really take it on board and learn to sit with it and like work with it and really move forward with it for the better.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think that sometimes a bit of distance from your everyday life can sort of give you that wake up call that your life needs a bit of a change, or you know, something's not quite right. It gives you that ability to go, oh yeah, this thing actually can change if I want it to. Yeah. Nina, did you have something to share as well?
No, I think that I don't know your name. My Voice in Power is quite inspiring, because it's about people can have this confidence in themselves to make the change, because they can feel a bit. Can be some stigma attached if you have to go to like to come back. Sorry about I'm making your name. I'm damaging your name. You know, your initiative. People can feel shy or stigmatized or feel they're not confident enough to use the right words to express that they need help. And the way that my Voice in Power is expressing actually is possible, and you can get that strength from yourself. You can get that solution from yourself as well. as external support. I think it's quite inspiring.
Thank you. So my name's actually Nyasha, but the email I'm using is the email that's connected to my Instagram account, where I post my poetry and I write poetry about the trauma that I've experienced and healing from it and moving on and things like that. So yeah, if anyone wants to follow me.
Could you repeat your name? Sorry.
Nyasha is my name. But my Instagram account is My Voice in Power. And so this is the email address I use to join these meetings. That's why it always comes up like that.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to follow me on Instagram, please feel free.
I was about to say, I'll be following you on Instagram. Okay, yeah, awesome. And yeah, the thing that you mentioned as well about the pandemic and having that time out. When I first started transitioning, when I went to the doctor, he said to me that often the way that people come to the realization that they're trans is from being taken out of their daily life. You, like, if you've broken your leg or if you're really ill for a period of time, you get taken out of your daily life and suddenly you're reflecting a lot on your life, who you are as a person, and you come to certain realizations about yourself. I'm sure that during the pandemic, a lot of people had that shared experience of being taken out of your daily life and suddenly realizing certain things about themselves, making changes to their life and what they want it to be. Although it was a really hard time for a lot of people, I'm sure that there were quite a lot of people like yourself that felt some benefits from that time out. Yeah, has anyone else got anything to share or anything you'd like to mention before you wrap up? I'm pretty sure we are finishing soon, but yeah, we still got a bit of time. Cicely, do you have anything that you want to share?
Yes, just as well. Our time is coming to an end. I mean, the conversation is so in-depth, such that I would love for us to continue, but I'm sure so many other things are waiting for us. Now, I see so many blank, cameras, but I know all of you have a lot to say about what is going on, because we are really all part of this, as we've been told, or we've been reminded that none of us is immune to loneliness and isolation. Yeah, we know the health impacts of it, and that is why it is important that we have these conversations. Now, we don't have James this morning or today, but I will give you the few facts about loneliness and isolation. James would have given you homework, but my homework is go and research more on these facts, so that when we meet next, we will be able to share more, but also they will equip us to look after ourselves more. I'm also aware that Victor is with us. So before we finish, I'll also bring him in to give us the updates, especially on a very important meeting we have this evening. So a few facts about loneliness and isolation is that we have established, or we know, or this morning we have reinforced the fact that 1 in 3 of us will be impacted on or will experience loneliness at one time or another. The other fact to know is that loneliness does not depend on how many friends you have or how big a family you have. It really does not depend on all that. So you have to really look deep in yourself and know or think about what you could be experiencing at that or at any given time. And also another important statistic to take home is that more than 60% of married couples are lonely. And if one can be lonely in a marriage relationship, then I don't see where else one would not be lonely. So something very important to be aware of. We also know that loneliness distorts our perception of our relationships. Yeah, so it's knowing that, then we'll be able to equip ourselves better in ways that will help us guard our relationships. Just think about the mental impact it has on you. Also think about the effect on your immunity, such that your body does not is not strong enough to fight any other physical health that may come along the way. In terms of mental health, think about depression and suicide, which comes or which is associated with loneliness and isolation. So a very important subject matter to talk about. It's like an elephant in the room, but it's important that we normalize these conversations because we live with them on a daily basis. On that note, I also say that next week, we'll follow up this conversation with young people's mental health. We know that it's half term, a lot will be happening or has been happening. So it would be nice or it would be great to hear from the young people themselves and how they experience mental health, but more so how they tackle it. And it will be a way of really equipping ourselves and equipping them to better look after themselves. Yeah. So that's me for now. Victor, I know you are there. I hope you are okay to come in. If you can.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good conversation. I've just posted two items in the chat. This evening, we're having a conversation, well, a seminar on the immigration and the proposed Nationality and Borders Bill, which has some very onerous provisions that would impact on British citizens with origins abroad, where the UK government can unilaterally withdraw your citizenship if certain things happen in your life. So we've got a local solicitor who will be delivering the lecture, and we'll take question and answers. This information has been going around for the last 2-3 weeks now, and it would be good if you can attend just to inform yourself and be able to advise people in your community, your friends who may be caught out by this new piece of legislation, should it go through Parliament. My understanding is that it's been held up by the House of Lords, who asked the government to make some changes to the legislation so as to make its impact less drastic. And I am forced to use the example of the Windrush scandal. In 2016, when the legislation that allowed that, the hostile immigration policy to be rolled out, nobody took attention, paid attention to what was happening. People were going away, with life, happy as Larry, whereas this was brewing in the background. And we only became aware of it after, hundreds of people had been impacted by its provisions. So we took this step to host this event so that we don't make the same mistake where we get caught out. It's best that we are informed. There are two ways of attending. One is in person, which is almost full now, or online. If you register with the Eventbrite link that I've just posted. And I hope I'm able to see many of you there, if not all of you. It's very, very important that we're aware what is being proposed by our government and how it might impact on us, whether we are law-abiding citizens or not. Because if you're not affected, it could be your child or your family member. So it's best to know. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Victor, for that very useful information. It's the reason why we have this forum, to be informing each other of what is happening in the community. That's the only way we can keep each other well. So I'll say thank you, Alex. I'm sure you all agree with me the beautiful way Alex has conducted this conversation. And we hope, well, not we hope, but we'll be seeing more of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Well done, Alex.
Well done. Well done.
Well
Alex,
done, Alex. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Alex and a few others are some of our young mental health first aiders. So we are very, very equipped. When you go to the drop-in hub that you mentioned, please be aware that you'll be well protected, you'll be well looked after. Yeah. We also have Nyasha, who is our dedicated volunteer. So thank you for really coming into the community and doing what we need to do to keep ourselves well. So until next week, please look after yourself. Signpost the young people now that they are on midterm next week to Zoom in, because we will have a lot to share and to hear from them, more importantly. Charles, we can't wait to see you on Saturday, because what you are learning out there, we need it. Yeah. So bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Very good. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.